Joining me is Michael Shoebridge, who's a former senior defence and intelligence official, now Director of Defence Strategy and National Security at the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. Michael Shoebridge, what was your overall reaction to that speech?
Very similar to yours, Andrew. The ambassador is a very urbane, friendly toned character, but it's really the same Chinese Communist Party message in a slightly nicer wrapping. One of the most amazing things about his speech was the invisibility of the Chinese Communist Party and their unaccountability for any of their actions or their orders. He told us a story that really it's about the emotions of a highly strung 1.4 billion Chinese people who are quick to feel anger but have enormous personal warmth and friendliness towards Australians. And the Chinese Communist Party seemed at best just a conduit for these emotions of the Chinese people, when he knows the truth is it's a highly autocratic, controlling regime that's making some extremely nasty decisions and using its power against its own people and against the world in pretty aggressive ways. That was the invisible Chinese Communist Party.
Well, absolutely true. And if there is a public reaction in China to Australia, let me say, they can only read what the Chinese Communist Party allows them to read about Australia. And the second that the party thinks it's in its interest to be nice to us, click, you wait. They can turn that public opinion in an instant. Now, the ambassador started by reminding Australia that we make a lot of money from China. He made it very clear, nearly 40% of our exports go there. And he said it's in our interest, therefore, to have a good relationship. What is China actually wanting from us in exchange for that money?
Well, that was interesting because I think the subtext was, if you want the money to keep flowing, you better do what we want. But really, the truth of what he told us was there's a mutual dependence. The Chinese Communist Party would love to be coercing us with more of our trade than the $20 billion they already are, but they can't because their economy needs what we give them. So really, the real understanding of what he told us was there are limits to the economic coercion that the Chinese government can place on Australia. That was probably unexpected good news from him in a moment of frankness.
It's interesting, isn't it? The Chinese economy is really in trouble. Their latest growth figures only 2.5%. We're used to infinitely more than that. They're in real strife. But we have this dictatorship that needs us now, that needs our coal, needs our iron ore. Michael, we've got it threatening war with Taiwan. We've got it threatening Australia. We've got it backing Russia's invasion. We've got it cutting negotiations now with the US. When it's doing all this threatening, does it make sense that Australia sells China iron ore, sells it coal, for it to go stronger and to build weapons, among other things, with what we send it?
Well, Andrew, I think we're at this moment of realisation, and this is where I keep saying all this talk about the bilateral relationship, it's about Australia and China. This is a much bigger challenge for many countries, not just Australia with China. It's a common challenge that all the countries in the European Union, America, Japan, South Korea, India, in fact, Southeast Asia, we all have a common challenge now with this aggressive and empowered autocratic regime that runs China. So we all have to manage that challenge. And in our trade, we have to diversify away from China as much as we possibly can, as quickly as we possibly can. I agree with you.
Here's one more thing just quickly before we go that I don't quite understand. China and Australia are now both giving millions of dollars to the Solomon Islands to hold the Pacific Games. I had a feeling that perhaps Solomon Islands has need of something more serious than sport, but that's what we're doing. Despite all those millions of dollars that we're both putting into this project, the Prime Minister of the Solomons, who's signed a secret security deal with China, now says he's run out of money to hold the election in May or June next year. And he wants to delay it for a year or so, until after the Games. I was stunned to hear our acting Prime Minister, Richard Marles, say today, well, this might not actually be an attack on democracy. Here he is.
I don't think we can make that assessment yet. I mean, it is important that, democracy is fundamentally important in our region, and constitutions are, but this is ultimately a question that is before the Solomon Islands Parliament.
Do you understand that response, Michael Shoebridge?
I think waiting until we see that Sogavare has destroyed the Solomon Islands democracy is a mistake. We helped Sogavare stay in power by sending police support when there was instability there recently. He thanked us by signing a security pact with Beijing. He's kept in power in the parliament by Chinese money. Now he wants to suspend the Solomon's constitution so that he doesn't have any accountability to the people of the Solomon Islands. We should be providing funding to support the elections and the democracy in the Solomon Islands, not providing money for Sogavare to spend on games while he suspends the constitution. That's a fundamental error we're making.
I can't believe it. We'd rather they had running races than an election. That's what we're putting our money in. I mean, seriously? And that we don't speak up? I just think Labor takes such kudos. Oh, we solved this relationship with the Solomon Islands that Prime Minister Scott Morrison stuffed up. They don't actually want to speak out now when something really seriously wrong is happening there. Michael Shoebridge, thank you so much indeed for your time.